Don't buy when everyone else is selling. The downward movement is over. That's it. At this point, you should look for long setups. Never argue with the trend. If you can stick to these simple, basic rules of the stock market, your expertise will be much deeper than what most market participants know. Trend is your friend. Always stay with the trend. Remember that, friends. Friends, good day. My name is Vladimir Karasev. I'm a private investor. Today, we're going to talk about Netflix. We'll talk about when to look for a potential trade setup in this instrument, on what time frame, and why. So I recommend watching this video to the end. At the end, as usual, all the most interesting stuff. So friends, at the moment, notice that after Netflix had been falling for 7 months, yes, we saw a downtrend. Notice the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh month down. And last month in February, we have candle body highs above the previous candle body highs, and the upper candle shadow goes higher than the maximum upper candle shadow in the previous month. That's it. At this point, the downward movement is over, and you can look for a long trade setup. How to do it, friends? How to do it right? And why, once again, I'll repeat, you shouldn't buy an asset in a falling trend. Big money never looks for trade setups in a falling trend. Again, never argue with the trend. The first law of the market, trend is your friend. Always stay with the trend. And until the falling trend breaks, don't try to find trade setups and buy the stock. Moving on, friends. So in February, we have a break of the falling trend, the end of the trend, and now we can look for a medium-term trend long if, first, such a medium-term long occurs, and second, most importantly, when opening a position, we will have a good quality stop. That is a very good risk, meaning the stop loss size won't be very large. For this, friends, let's go to the medium-term time frame. Let's change the time frame from months to weeks and see what we have on the chart. Here's the situation, the maximum values. And what's happening now, friends? What we were talking about a little bit earlier. A corrective pattern has started to form, and the current week, notice a small candle body, small candle shadows on top and bottom. And if we do happen to go into a breakout of the current week's highs, including the upper candle shadow next week, then we will likely have a very good, potentially rewarding medium-term long trade. Got it, right? In this case, the stop loss level will be the low of the current weekly candle. Let's see what those values are. Right now, that's the level of $90.82. So, to recap, if next week we break through the highs of the current weekly candle for Netflix, which is the level of $93.98, then we'll open a position on the breakout of the current weekly candle's highs. The stop loss level will be the low of the current weekly candle, which is $90.82. Only if we break through the highs of the current weekly candle next week. My friends, this is very important. If you can stick to these simple, basic rules of the stock market, your expertise will be much deeper than what most market participants know. And of course, your account's profitability will start to grow steadily. To see that we're right, let's analyze the exact same downward movement we had before. Let's take a look. Here's the situation. Notice how we were going down. Let's zoom in. And look, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth month, we're going down. I'll say it again, don't look for good trade setups in a downtrend, don't buy when everyone else is selling. That's a very dangerous misconception. We're often told to buy when everyone is selling. When everyone's selling, the trend is down, which means there's no talk of buying. Because let me remind you again of the first law of any stock market trading. Always stay with the trend. Remember that, friends. And notice what happened the following month. The highs we had in June 2022 were $20.74. The highs we had in May 2022 were $20.44. That's it. The monthly candles highs, including the upper shadow, went higher than the previous month. And let's look at the highs of the candle body. In May, the candle body's highs were $19.74. In June, the candle body's highs were $19.87. That's it. At that point, you need to look for long setups. The downward trend that lasted 6 months, half a year, is over. Now, my friends, let's return to the present moment. The exact same thing is happening now, friends. Exactly the same thing. The amplitude of the candle that appeared in February relative to January is greater than last time during the downtrend, but the logic is exactly the same. And notice again, the highs we have in March, let's recap what we talked about, are $100.19. Let's switch to the weekly time frame. Here's the situation. $100.19 and a corrective pattern has started to form. And I'll repeat, once this correction ends, we could see a very good medium-term trend long in Netflix. Friends, I recommend you apply this tactic in your trading, and on larger time frames, on longer time horizons, you'll start earning consistently in the stock market. And finally, friends, as always, if you understood what we discussed in this video, be sure to give it a like. Good luck to everyone and successful trades. Talk to you soon and see you.